You know, when you look up and from wherever you are, you see that. You know where you are, don't you? 10,000 tons of iron. They call her the Iron Lady. It's 1,050 feet tall, has 1,710 steps up if you want to count them. They paint her every 7 years. There are 3 different shades of the brown that you see. And it takes 60 tons of paint for one paint job. My last trip there was 1988, 1 year before the tower celebrated its centennial, its 100th anniversary. Somebody else celebrated an anniversary at the same time, 1889, Unity. The publication of the first modern thought in April 1889 is the birth date of Unity, as 1889 is the birth of the tower. And I don't think it's a coincidence. The tower held the title as the tallest man-made object for 40 years. Now, I know there are others that are taller today. I've been in others. One, for example, is the CN Tower in Toronto. It's taller, and it's lovely. But it's not the grand lady that La Tour Eiffel is. As you approach it, you realize exactly how large it is to stand under it in that plaza. My first trip back in '72, we could park under the tower, but you don't do that anymore. You realize it's a very large structure. It stands on 4 piers, 4 legs, and they go up somewhat of an angle until they reach the first floor. That's where the elevators are in the legs. So you get in the elevator and then you go up and a little bit sideways and a little bit straight. It's an interesting experience, all the while looking out through the lacework of the girders and beams. 4 piers, 4 legs. It reminds me of the symbol of the 4 rivers that fed the Garden of Eden. The 4 seasons, the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. 4 is a number that we consider metaphysically to mean complete. It's an amazing piece of symbolism. You begin down to what we would say is the first floor, which ground floor. They don't call the ground floor the first floor. They call it rez-de-chaussée, meaning where you walk, the walkway. We would call it street level. The first level or floor above that is, for the tower, it's premier étage, the first stage, the first level. As you are standing at the bottom deciding, am I going up this thing or not? How far am I going to go? Because you have to decide. Am I just going to the first stage, the second, the third? Because you buy a ticket according to how high you want to go. Now, you're in luck. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime decision. If you get up, buy a ticket just to the first stage, first floor, and you decide, hey, I want to go up higher, you can, from a machine, purchase an additional ticket to go further so that you can end up going all the way up to the top as you change your mind along the way. Moving up from the ground level, you go into one of the pillars and take an elevator. It reminds me of that process of giving birth to a divine idea. Ground level being pure potential. Man in the Garden of Eden when he's still an idea in God mind. But remember, he had to be cast out of the garden. And that's the process of ascending to the next level, the first floor or first stage. Moving from a divine idea in potential to life in physicality. That first floor is an amazing thing. It's just like life here on earth. Life in physicality. There are a lot of things to do there. There's a restaurant. I think of that restaurant symbolically as a place to feed your consciousness, to gain ideas about life and living. There's a museum. Something for the senses. It delights the eyes. But there's also a cinema. There's a museum that delights your eyes. There's a cinema where you can see a movie, and an ice cream parlor where you can get something that's going to make your tongue real happy. Variety of things to do there. And you begin to see the city of Paris all around you. From the ground level up to that first stage is that birth of the divine idea of humanity into physicality. It's been a part of a level of our spiritual growth. And yet, it's not all. At that level, you decide what to eat, what to wear. In the Old Testament, there are all kinds of rules and regulations about what to eat and what to wear, aren't there? All about having even exchanges, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But eventually, you begin to see that it's more than about stuff and about material things. You want to take a journey to another level of your own being. So you go up to the second stage, the second floor. You can see it in the picture of the tower. It's that place, the second above the ground floor. It's where the legs actually end and the single tower begins. That second stage is different than the first. Your view of the city is much grander. You see so much farther. Physical things are less distinct. People below are losing their personality. It's hard to look down there and tell who's well-dressed and who isn't. The dirt of the street starts to disappear. This level is different from the first. You're outside. You're exposed. There's no big restaurant. There's no museum. There's no ice cream parlor. There's no souvenir. There's no cinema. Just souvenir shops. Souvenir is a wonderful word. Now in French it means to remember. You buy a souvenir to remember. Where was I last week? And you look at that spoon you got. Oh yeah, I was in Denver last week. We use souvenirs to remind ourselves of our journey. Well, when you go to the second level, all of a sudden, it's the movement from the physical to the mental. Beginning to see the world differently. Beginning to see yourself differently. Not just a physical being. Not just human. But there's more to you than that. You begin to question what life is all about at this level. Is it really the striving for a living, for things in the material world? To get ahead in the world? Or is it about something else? In this level of spiritual understanding, you begin to realize you do have the power to control thought and then feeling, to work with consciousness. And the thoughts are important. They are things. They are formative. And they do create your experience. So you come to an understanding of the two tools that you have available to you to control thought. They are denial and affirmation. And at this level, you begin to use those tools to change consciousness. Jesus said to Peter, I give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Now, the keys aren't heaven itself, but they're a way to enter into heaven. The means to take power away from error beliefs, ideas that do not bring you the good you seek, do not bring you the life you would like to have, that does not serve you. With affirmation, you replace the error beliefs with something that is true and eternal and constructive. And you find that you are actually far more than just physical. You are a mental being, and you're growing into an awareness that perhaps there might be more. But you bought a ticket to go higher. You bought a ticket for the top. So now you get on another elevator and you take another journey. You can feel the rise in your solar plexus as you go up that elevator. You know that in the stomach. Something is happening. It's a change. Maybe you begin to pray, oh God. As you look out, the elevator has windows, so you're watching the lacy girders go by you and looking out into the space surrounding the tower. And it looks so fragile. For a moment, you might be afraid. And the higher you go, the narrower the way. Jesus said that. He told us that narrow is the gate. Not everyone chooses in this current life to go all the way to the top, to heaven. But he encouraged every one of us to follow him there, to find that kingdom of God within ourselves. Now, we've moved through physicality, the first level. We've become aware of ourselves as mental beings and learned the tools to control thought, the second level. Now, at the third level, you've looked out upon the lacy, fragile appearing structure. Perhaps you felt insecure, perhaps frightened. The elevator doors open. And all of a sudden, you're inside. You're no longer outside, but inside, surrounded by walls with glass windows. You can look in every direction and see, well, you can see all directions. And there are some signs. One points a certain direction and says Singapore and gives you the mileage. Washington, D.C. is there. Kansas City, I did not see a sign for Kansas City. That's an oversight on their part. What do you find on that third level when you reach it? Nothing. No restaurant. No coffee shop. Nothing to do, only to be. To be on the tower, to be looking out at the beauty that surrounds you, to be still and to know. And we rose in consciousness from that second level, an understanding of the denial and affirmation, to enter what we call in unity at this third level, the silence. That quiet place within. And in closed space, Jesus referred to it as going into your closet and shutting the door. This turning within. And your purpose for being here is to be, to see farther, more clearly. No longer do you see personalities, lack, illness, only expansion, life, health, peace, prosperity, and beauty. When you reach this level, you see nothing else. We move from an awareness of ourselves as only physical or mental to an awareness, an understanding that we are more, that we are spiritual beings, that we are children of God, born in the image after the likeness of God. And we are created with everything necessary to be able to say, I am in His presence. To know that presence of God with you, within you, at every moment. Now, on that third level, if you look around, you'll see a little stairway. It's a small stairway, narrow little stairway. It's up to you to take the journey to the next level, which is the top. There's no elevator. No one's going to carry you there. You must make the decision. You must be willing to go there on your own. You must walk those last steps yourself. Not the top of the stairs. What a surprise. The last level was glassed in. When you rise to the top, there's no glass, there's no barrier, there's only a small fence all the way around the perimeter. And your view is not distorted by glass or high fencing in any way. I remember walking, the railing at that point was just about waist high, and I leaned over and I took a photograph straight down 1,000 feet. It was hold on. It's a long way down from up there. On a clear day, you can almost see forever. 90 kilometers, or about 45 miles. All of Paris is laid out before you in all directions. Now, last time I was there, I was grumbling because it was overcast, sun did not shine, and every photograph I took was dull because it's just flat because there was no direct sunlight. As I climbed those stairs and I got to the top, out there in the open, folks, the clouds parted for me and the sun came out. It was a miraculous moment, incredible beauty. Oh, and up there, you're standing around, in the very center is that secret room. During World War II, it was a radio operator up there. And when I saw it last in 1988, there was a life-size figure of Gustave Eiffel in that room. So you could see the creator of the tower. It's a wonderful journey to that very top. From the ground level up to the first stage, of course, there are far more people on the ground who take than those that go up to the first level. But there are more people on the first level than go to the second. Fewer still go to the third. And the fewest number of all choose to go to the top. To be able to stand face to face with the Creator in the very presence of God. Each level represents one of those stages of spiritual development. And remember, you had to make a decision. How far will you choose to go? Where will you stop? And some of us do. The silence, will you go to the third level and find that still place within yourself where you can just be? Today, you may walk out of here this morning and ask yourself, what ticket will I buy? But remember, if your first choice is to go to just the first floor, you can purchase another ticket there. So at each level, you have the choice to go further, to take another step.